Hi, Wendy. Very pretty horse. It also looks like a pretty place where you're riding in that pasture. So your horse does look pretty pacey. I can see that he's got a big back end. In other words, he's got a lot of overstride, and that can make for a lot of motion in the saddle. So I'm going to stop it for a second. So he reaches way up with his back foot over his front foot. And when they do that and they have a lot of reach, you get a lot of back and forth in the saddle here. So to help you so you don't move as much, I would get a fleece cover for your saddle. That will help a lot so you don't move so much. Make sure your saddle, because I can't tell from here in the picture, that it fits you well. It's better to be a little bit on the smaller side in the seat versus one that's bigger. You should just be able to put your hand in front of your crotch area here. If you can fit like two hands, then the saddle's bigger and it won't hold you as much, and so it'll keep moving more. So if it's bigger, I tell people get bucking rolls, because the bucking rolls will help to hold you kind of back in the saddle. Make sure whatever riding tights that you're wearing have sticky on them, because that will also help you to stick in the saddle. To shorten up his stride, you can do a little bit of things with the shoeing that might help some, and that's roll the toe in the front and then square the toe in the back. That'll usually help with the breakover, and so it might help with the pacing as well and should shorten that stride up. Now let's watch him move. So when he makes the turn right here, he does look like he rings his hocks a little bit. A lot of the horses related to the walking horses, so spotted saddles and the walking horses, can have that just because of their breeding lines. He does tend to fall in when he takes this turn. He's not bending and supporting himself, so he kind of just leans in like an airplane right there. And so I would practice making lots of circles with him, but I would ride him with more contact than you have on him, because you got a big loop in the rein and he needs a lot of support right now until he's able to balance himself, and he's a pretty big horse too. So I would make sure that you've taught him to do lateral flexion and vertical flexion like I have in my videos, and I can send that to you, so he knows how to put his head down and keep his head on the bit. And then I would support him more with your reins. He needs help to learn how to balance himself, and then in time you'll be able to loosen the reins, but I wouldn't do that right now. So I would keep the reins straight, so it goes from the bit straight up to your hand, and I would just make sure you're half halting and supporting him, and he's going with his head down. If he throws his head up, you want to brace yourself and hold your hand nice and tight. But see, the rein's very loopy, and the hard part when the horses are like this and they have that big stride, when you're too nice to them and you have that big loopy rein and they're not collecting themselves, then they're even lankier, and then you get even more motion in that saddle. So the more we can try to bring his head down, shorten his stride, and support him more, you won't get such big motion in the saddle. There he's going faster, but he's just pacing. So, and I'm sure he has a hard pace when he goes just because of that motion he has in him. So we want to shorten that stride up, but we want to support him and try to help him a lot more. I would do a lot of arena work with him and work on circles and leg yielding and serpentine and patterns, and make sure he's bending around the turns and he's not falling in. You might have to wear a little spur, so if he leans on your leg, he can't ignore you. Yeah, you can see how big that back end is, which will make it very smooth as he goes faster, but it's the slow part that's hard with those horses with the big back end. They get that camel walk, and then it pretty much rubs your skin off. The other thing I would do is use anti-chafing cream. I have that chafing video, and I'll send you that video as well, because you can see the other things I use in there, which can help when the horses have that big motion. Also, if you tilt a little bit more in your thigh, then you won't rub your skin as much, and it will also help with him pacing. So I would just tilt a little bit more forward into your thigh, and then again, that won't rub your buttock as much if he's got that big motion. But for now, even though you're walking slow, I would have more contact. Instead of having that big loop in your rein, I would have a straight rein. I would have his head tucked in, round his back more, and then tilt yourself a little bit more forward, and that should help so he's not as pacey. But he's so big and he's so pacey when he's going slow that he really doesn't know how to carry himself. There his head's lower. It's hard to tell from this angle. So some of the time his head's lower, but it's not consistent. It comes up and down. And we don't want him too low either because he'll get too heavy on his front end. These horses that have the big back end, but they can be pacey, we definitely don't want too much weight on that front end because then they can get trippy and then it gets much worse. So you can see how he kind of twists his hocks as he goes. But he's kind of like my old horse Sundance. He's just got that big stride and he's lanky. And if you don't hold them together, then they're just all over the place. So we got to support him a lot more. And I'm going to send you a video of me riding Sundance so you can see what that looked like as well. I would use, if he's not listening to your leg, a little spur so he can't ignore you and fall in. And hopefully you're coming back in the video in a minute. And I would carry a dressage whip because I would want to make sure that he is listening to you and paying attention and engaging that back end. So see, even though his head is down here and he's pretty relaxed, he's got that big stride. So he's just going to get longer, lankier, and you're going to get more motion in the saddle. So even though it's nice that he's down and relaxed, we have to kind of shorten his stride up. You're going to have to do a lot of half halting, even though you're just walking slow. So half halting, tilting a little bit forward, keeping his head down, but not too low. I would not go any lower than this. I might bring it up just a tiny bit, and then I would try to keep him there the whole time, because at least in this video, he's going up and down, and he's all around. He's just kind of looks like a big kid that can't control his body yet, or like a Great Dane, where you see him kind of running, and they're all over the place. So if we can collect him, get him to carry himself more, he's going to be a wonderful horse. Don't get me wrong. This is a great horse, but you just got to help him more. The ones like this, they tend to get all strung out if you don't help them enough when you're riding them. So practice lots of bending, lots of the lateral movements, and I would practice walking, stopping, backing up, trying to get him to engage that back end. If you have hills, I would use hills. If you don't, I would use poles to build up his strength and make sure he's paying attention to his feet. And then lots and lots of circles and leg yielding out of the circle, leg yielding back out, in serpentines, things of that nature to help him get to carry himself. And again, carry a dressage whip and a little spur so you make sure that he can't ignore you. And that way, if he drags you over here, if he's being bad and he drags you over here, you can have your stick in that hand and you can tap him on the shoulder. If that's not working, you can tilt your stick this way and tap him kind of in the neck. And that a lot of times will help you to get better control and get them to turn. So watch him in slow motion here. You'll see how much he's just really swinging those legs. He needs to separate them. So he just swings. He's not engaging himself. So we need to get his legs separated, him placing the legs down and engaging himself so he carries himself better.